Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar on what's stopping you from implementing ERP. All attendees are in listen-only mode, so please feel free to submit your questions in the chat or question box throughout the presentation. We will revisit those questions at the end of the session. With that, I will introduce our presenter today. His name is Dave Lechleitner. Dave has 25 years experience in the ERP space, specifically with small and mid-sized manufacturers. He has implemented ERP solutions in over 1,000 shops and is certified in lean manufacturing. With that, I'll kick it over to Dave to get started.
Great. Rachel, thanks so much for that very nice introduction. I'm very excited to be here today with you all presenting this webinar on behalf of Keyed In Solutions. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone, and thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today in our webinar entitled meeting the challenges, or really focusing on meeting the challenges and issues that might be preventing you from implementing an ERP solution. We like to keep the webinars to about 30 minutes or so, and we have a lot of ground to cover today, including talking a little bit about what are some of those common ERP implementation roadblocks, maybe some of the common misconceptions that people have about ERP implementations, where and how ERP systems fit, especially within a manufacturing operation. How an ERP system that was designed by people with literally hundreds of years of cumulative experience can really be a benefit to your company. Then we'll take a look at the solution by means of a high-level overview. We'll keep it somewhat limited, but really kind of show you the highlights of what we believe sets Keyed In manufacturing apart from some of the competition. And then finally, we'll wrap up with a few real-life customer success stories. After all of that, as Rachel said, we should still have a few minutes to cover any of your questions at the end of the presentation. So first off, one of the first things that I'd like to focus on are those maybe few but common misconceptions and issues that we hear from prospects almost on a daily basis. These prospects typically haven't implemented a fully integrated solution yet to manage really everything from quote to cash. You know, for many of these small and mid-sized manufacturers, the cost of the solution is one of their first and overriding concerns. And we totally understand that, because traditionally in the old days, there was legitimate concerns. In the on-premise world, which is where we all come from, where software was deployed on your file server, across your network, maybe even had to be installed on individual workstations, you had to really first think about whether or not your current hardware setup and your infrastructure would actually support the new system. In many cases, you might have even had to buy new servers, new workstations, and potentially even upgrade your network. Then you had to budget for implementation. Many systems back in the day historically positioned that for every $1 of software that you bought, you had another $1 or even $2 worth of implementation. Then there was customization. The consultant would come in, maybe on site, uncover a unique nuance to the way that you actually operated your business, and then you were dinged for the additional cost for that development and customization. And guess what? Every year you had to consider annual maintenance or further software support costs. With configurable cloud ERP like Keyed In manufacturing, many of those costs actually are eliminated or substantially reduced, and all wrapped up in a regular, lower cost, monthly or annual invoice. The second issue or concern that many people have about implementing ERP often centers around with the complexity, both of the software as well as the deployment. And again, traditional ERP systems that were developed 20 or 30 years ago were very complex. And quite often, they weren't designed for the needs of smaller, mid-sized custom manufacturing operations. Today, quite honestly, most people expect solutions that are easy to use, just like their iPad, and the functionality is easy to access and easy to navigate. People want systems today that are designed, very honestly, to fit their needs, not the other way around. They want a system that thinks like they do and that can be deployed in minutes and not days, weeks, or months, with very minimal or no additional cost incurred for servers, workstations, or maybe even those network upgrades. Almost everyone today expects that their business system be as easy as their online banking, where they simply log in anytime, anywhere, and transact business. Many traditional ERP solutions that have a really difficult time adapting to this change in thinking. And so if you are a leading edge manufacturer, you really do need to consider and shortlist a leading edge solution that was developed from its very beginning in the cloud and for the cloud. Lastly, implementation of the solution has always been a very real concern for small and mid-sized manufacturers. Again, rightly so. Anytime a shop implements something new, whether it's a machine on the floor or a new business system, it implies some level of change. And change is always uncomfortable and can be very disruptive. Very often in the old days, the downtime and disruption of implementing that new solution quickly outweighed the benefits that may have been achieved. So manufacturers very often stayed with their old solution and limped along. Today, you have many more choices. ERP systems that are designed very deliberately for very specific industry verticals are available to you. The benefit to you is that now the ERP solution, which is designed again specifically for your type of operation, often requires very little change, which also eases that transition. And now combined with the cloud, where there's no on-premise installation, no server or workstation maintenance that is required, we literally can deploy, train, and go live in days or weeks rather than months or years. The end result to you is a lot more restful night's sleep and minimal disruption to your business. So today, ERP solutions are no longer just for the big guys. Many small and mid-sized operations are deploying a solution on day one of their startup. These companies realize that they can achieve cost savings, improved efficiency, and increased profits right out of the gate the first day of their operation. And they can't imagine operating without a business system. Likewise, we see many manufacturers are actually outgrowing their current manual processes and are looking to a fully integrated ERP solution. They might be using QuickBooks today, for example, and a whole lot of manual spreadsheets that they are trying to update daily and have finally reached that tipping point where they realize that there is a better way. The last group we see implementing ERP today are those shops that need to gain more real-time access and insight into important information, really to support day-to-day decision-making as well as long-term strategic decisions as well. They may have been saddled in the past with an ERP system that was too cumbersome, too outdated, and are relying on exporting data out of the system or writing maybe a lot of custom reports because the system that they have currently doesn't provide them with the data that they need. So, can a company really experience success with ERP? I believe the answer is absolutely yes, with the caveat that they have to choose the right solution. They can experience reduced administrative costs by all but eliminating duplicate or sometimes even triplicate data entry. They can reduce operational costs by releasing work orders faster to the shop floor. They can make the right parts at the right time. They have proactive visibility to issues on the shop floor before they get out of control. They can also experience improved data accuracy through a single system of record, which further supports improved decision-making by providing ready and timely information at the touch of a finger when they need it. At the end of the day, manufacturers with this fully integrated ERP solution will experience greater on-time delivery performance. We've actually seen customers improve their on-time performance in the neighborhood of 5 to 10% annually. And the end result of being able to ship more jobs on time is the potential for increased revenue and better margins due to that improved throughput and higher quality part production. A fully integrated solution deployed quickly and easily in the cloud improves data accuracy, increases the efficiency of your operations, reduces costs, and provides really, probably most importantly, that closed loop visibility that leading edge shops really need today to manage and maintain their competitive edge. With that, let's take a real quick look at some of the features of keyed-in manufacturing that have empowered our customers to make those better decisions, to improve their operations, and realize increased profits at a reduced cost. So at this point, I'll go ahead and get out of my presentation, and let's go ahead and launch our browser page. And at this point, let's go ahead and log in to keyed-in manufacturing. So again, literally on whatever device that I can access the web, I can go ahead and log into keyed-in manufacturing. So it could be a PC, I could be sitting at Starbucks, could be an iPad, could even be my smartphone conceivably. All right, a couple of things about the user interface. One of our differentiators with keyed-in manufacturing is its configurability and its really role-based capability. So depending upon who you are in the company, what your responsibilities are in the company, you can configure your workspace unique to your activities. So you can see here the system recognized, for example, that I might be the estimator. And so everything that I see on my homepage here in keyed-in relates to my estimating function. So everything from managing opportunities to maybe engineering or product design, if that's part of the responsibility that I have. Obviously, quoting new or repeat business, and then maybe even generating RFQs to vendors for parts that I want to get updated pricing on. And then the other important feature is that quick graphical visibility to maybe my quote pipeline. So things that are at an opportunity stage versus those things that I've completed the estimates for and those things that I have finally submitted as quotes. to my customer. And again, all of this interface is completely user definable by you, the end user. And you don't need to know any programming, any code, or anything like that. So it's very, very user friendly. Well, let's take a look at some of the functionality that's available in the system. And again, here we can do so right from my Launchpad. To save you from having to watch me actually enter a bunch of data, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and pull up some of the key features in the system, and we'll talk through that. So I've actually generated a few quotes already in the system. The nice thing about the quoting module is obviously we completely understand the concept of custom and make-to-order manufacturing. Very often as a custom make-to-order manufacturer, you may get a drawing submitted by the customer for a part that you've never produced anymore. So right from within the quoting and estimation function, I can indicate the brand new part. It does not have to pre-exist in the system. So notice here that in this particular case, I am quoting an existing part, but again, keep in mind that we have that complete flexibility to create new parts on the fly. Now, in this particular case, obviously we have an existing part, so it does have a predefined method of manufacturing. If this was a brand new part that we've never done before, here on the actual quote, we'd be able to plug in that new route as well as the bill of material. We can associate markups per operation if we need to do so. We can also indicate any sort of provision for scrap or any other ancillary information as well. In addition, we can attach any sort of documentation to this quote, including perhaps even the customer drawing again, or any other special terms and conditions that we might want to then consolidate as part of this quote, and then ultimately, obviously, email directly to the customer. From here, you can see the shortcuts of those common activities that we would do. We can email, we can print the quote, but in this particular case, let's go ahead and convert this over to a brand new sales order. So again, no need to enter the data again. The system knows who we're obviously quoting to, what it is that we're quoting, and I can now go ahead and select one or many lines here. In this case, this was a single line quote, and now simply convert this quote over to a sales order. Now, at the time of creating the sales order, we could potentially have different rules regarding how we are going to manufacture that product. It could be, again, a truly custom make-to-order part, and we may have to go through some sort of approval process to finalize that routing and that bill of material, which we could definitely do. Or this might be a part that we make actually to stock. We see many custom manufacturers today that have some level of repeatability with orders. Maybe they're even making to long-term contracts. So instead of completely custom, they may have minimum and maximum levels of inventory that they want to maintain. Keyed-in manufacturing supports both manufacturing modes. In this particular case, the system realizes that I want to be in control over when I release a work order. So you can actually see here that I have a create job link. So from here, and again, directly from the sales order now, and whatever information came from that original estimate or quote, we can now go ahead and create that job or work order and obviously print the traveler out to the shop floor as well. When we create the job, we can either create it per line item of the sales order, or each line of a sales order could actually have multiple delivery dates. And instead, we may want to actually create a job for each and every one of those individual delivery dates potentially as well. Here, I'll go ahead and create it per sales order line. And not only is it creating the job or work order at this point, but it's also doing the scheduling function for me as well. So the default that I've defined in my instance of the solution is that we want to backwards schedule this job from the delivery date. And so as I look at the actual work order that has been created, or job that has been created, it has not only created that job by which I can print the traveler if I decide to actually print documentation to the shop floor, but it's also actually even scheduled each of those inside as well as outside operations as well. So there you can see each step of the manufacturing process as well as the bill of material as well. Notice here that if I have that level of permission, where I want to have visibility to actual versus estimated costs, we can definitely do that and show that as well. Again, each of these different panels and quadrants on any of these screens can be made visible or invisible depending upon the role that I may have. So I'm going to go ahead and release this out to the shop floor. Again, we can print the traveler if we need to. And then the other thing that we can actually do right from here as well is view a very graphical scheduling board as well. Now, in this particular case, I'm viewing it specifically for this particular work order. Notice how I can see graphically the scheduled start and end dates. We can obviously set up sequential or parallel processing. But again, ready visibility to this particular work order, and obviously what resources are scheduled and when they are actually scheduled. In addition to these individual work order views, we also have what we call, and you can see it over here in my recents, a resource visual scheduling board. So I may want to see the entire shop and all of the work centers and resources on the shop floor. I might want to look at a particular department. So a number of different ways that we can actually view this schedule. This is also a drag and drop interface. So if I decide to move a particular operation, I can resequence or reschedule all of the dependent operations as well. I see we're running out of time, but I did want to cover a little bit about the shop floor as well. So on the shop floor, the employees on the shop floor will be able to clock in real time, both for the day for payroll purposes, as well as for individual jobs as well. Each of the shop employees will be able to look up their assigned work centers. They'll be able to see very easily what they need to work on in the order that they need to work on it. They can even see work instructions. They can see attached material that needs to go into this operation step. And then if all is going to plan, I can go ahead and either start the setup operation or start the production work for this particular work order as well. And all of this is in real time, which obviously benefits all of the folks in the front office that need to know job status information, actual cost information, and that sort of thing as well. In addition to keeping track of both payroll hours as well as job hours, notice here that we have complete material transaction capability as well. So I can issue material to work orders, I can receive material, I can also transfer stock in and out of inventory and even move it in inventory if I need to do that as well. So with that, at this point, let's just go back to the presentation real quick. And again, keep in mind that this was meant to be a real quick overview, not a demo from quote to cash necessarily. We can definitely set up that and schedule that with you so that you can actually see how a sample part, perhaps that you might even manufacture, could be run through the system and hopefully streamline operations and increase your efficiency as well. With that, let's go ahead and finish up with a few of our customer success stories. And we have a few of them that I'd just like to real quickly share with you. Our first success story actually involves a company that you probably all know really, really well. Or at least you know the name of the company very well, and that company is Tesla. Tesla uses our application in their captive machine shop. And they had some challenges initially that really prompted them to look at keyed-in manufacturing. Some of their key challenges revolved around needing real-time visibility, both to data and the status of orders, as well as where those orders were on the shop floor. And so the use of real-time data collection from the shop floor, they deployed a number of those terminals out on the floor. I think they're using actually iPads today, and their employees can literally walk up to that terminal and clock in and out in real time. One of the other benefits or things that they needed was project management, knowing the status of the order anytime the engineering group called down to the shop and wanted to know the status of some of the prototypes that they were manufacturing. In addition, they needed that dynamic scheduling capability that you saw earlier. And so some of the benefits that they've realized with keyed-in, obviously that real-time visibility, the ability to try different scenarios on that scheduling board, and more importantly for them, because they are a captive shop and they have certain requirements that are very unique to their particular environment, they also wanted a solution that could be configured by them to meet their needs. And they have all of that capability with keyed-in. Another company that we've worked with is a sheet metal fabrication company. This particular company often had unreliable manufacturing processes. They weren't really controlled. Some of their issues led to them actually overbooking machines on the shop floor, over committing to the customer when they could actually deliver product. And then obviously they had different systems, some that were used for operations, and then they had a financial system at the back end as well. One of the things that they realized with keyed-in manufacturing, or some of the things they realized with keyed-in manufacturing, is that real-time end-to-end visibility. They have one system of record now. They also were very much benefited by that visual scheduling board. Again, the real-time updates to any changes in the production schedule. So if jobs were running behind or ahead of schedule, all of that would be represented quite visually, and they could see any problems way ahead of time and be very proactive in how they dealt with it. Our final success story was a capital equipment company. They make very large industrial equipment. And they found that their current solution really just didn't meet their needs. They were using Sage Mass 90 for a financial solution, and they had lots and lots of spreadsheets. Some of their biggest challenges and pains really revolved around disconnected data data that had to be updated daily in multiple spreadsheets. They found that they had really reached that tipping point, as I mentioned earlier, where they were outgrowing this manual system that they had. And obviously, operations and finances were totally disconnected as well. So with Keyed-In Solution, one of their biggest benefits that they've realized is really the ability to grow the business without having to incur additional headcount or other costs associated with that growth. They also have seamless integration between accounting and production, which has led to them being able to close the books very, very quickly at the end of the month. So at this point, we'll open it up for any questions that may have come up through the Q&A panel. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Rachel real quick before we end out our presentation today.
Great, thanks, Dave. While I read off some of the questions, maybe we can put up your contact information in case people want to reach out after the call as well. So share
Sure.
that slide, that would be great. So there were a few questions that did come through. We'll start with this one here. At what point of growth do you see manufacturers implement ERP?
Yeah, really great question. And it's almost as unique as each and every prospect that comes to us. As I kind of mentioned earlier, we have customers that have been on a legacy system for literally 10, 15, 20 years. And they have finally realized that either they've outgrown that system or the system maybe just isn't flexible enough for the changes that they've gone through. And that's a real common occurrence. You know, the manufacturers today are very different than they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. So we see very mature prospects that are coming to us. But conversely, literally, we have many, many early startup companies as well. Obviously, we all experienced potentially the recession of the last couple of years. A lot of businesses went out of business, but then conversely, when things started to pick up again, we actually saw a lot of new manufacturing companies start up as well. And what we typically see nowadays is the owner being kind of that young entrepreneurial sort and really wanting a system day one. Which is really kind of exciting for us. We can really help that customer really grow the business. And again, they can stay very lean and mean. So there's not a pat answer, quite honestly. We see prospects and we've onboarded customers really at both ends of the spectrum.
Great, thanks, Dave. One of the other questions that came through was about industry-specific solutions, and what they wanted to know is what type of industries does Keyed-In fit really well?
Yeah, great question. And that is really, I think, one of the strengths of Keyed-In manufacturing. So we've stayed very true to the founder's original vision when she started the company. So we are really focused on custom make-to-order manufacturers, especially in certain SIC or NAICS codes. So we were really designed for machine shops, tool and die shops, screw machine shops, stamping environments. But then conversely, we also fit very well in capital equipment. As well as system manufacturers, so people that might build very large, very complex systems, automation systems, for example. And one of the takeaways, I hope, of the presentation today is when you're evaluating a solution, you have really a couple of different choices. Either you purchase a generic ERP solution, and then at the end of the day, very often what you do is you have to pay the vendor to make the customizations and modifications that you need to really fit your environment. Or you, out of the gate, find a solution that was really designed for your type of manufacturing. And that's really our value proposition. The fact that we are staying true, very true to the market that we originally envisioned serving. And that is that small to mid-sized custom manufacturer in very specific industry verticals.
Great, Dave. And then we got one last question that just came through. It says, how many companies are you onboarding that require the manufacturing without the accounting side? And if they are looking for accounting, what do you offer?
Yeah, great question. So we have a couple of different flavors of what we can actually do there. Again, we are in a lot of captive environments, smaller shops within a much larger organization. And in that particular case, very often the captive shop just needs to really manage, kind of what I would call the quote to shipping aspect. They may have to send some data over to an accounting solution, but they don't want to be integrated 100% with an accounting solution. So you can definitely run keyed-in manufacturing that way. I don't have to be connected to an accounting solution. And again, legacy systems, very often you had to do that. You had to be connected with the vendor's accounting system. We also have our own accounts receivable and accounts payable solution. So if that's all you need, just AR and AP, you can definitely run keyed-in manufacturing, and then obviously send data over maybe to another general ledger. We also have an integration to Sage Live. Sage Live is the new cloud version of Sage Accounting. Some of you may have know the product Peachtree. Sage Live is really the next generation of that particular product. And then we're also currently working on an integration to QuickBooks Online as well. So bottom line, we give you lots of options. We're not going to tie you into using an accounting system. And then when you decide, hey, I do want to have it all under one solution, we give you accounting options that you can work with as well.
Awesome. Great, Dave. I think we're going to have to wrap up, but we appreciate all of you for attending today. If you do have additional questions, please feel free to email Dave. His email is there on the screen, and we look forward to hopefully hearing from you soon and seeing you on another webinar coming up. So thanks, everyone, and have a great day.